Hi, this is Nick Popovich from Monomi Park, and you're listening to the Party Chat Podcast.
Xbox on.
Game on, baby! Wow!
Don't make a girl a promise you can't keep.
Let's do this.
Hello and welcome to the Party Chat Podcast, the official podcast of the Xbox One subreddit. I am your host for this week, Ross Miller, and I'm joined by Carina.
You did that last week.
I'm sticking with it.
Really?
Yeah, I like it.
I don't like it.
Aww. Oh well. And everyone's favourite word and savoury snack, Rhys.
Hell, oh.
Like, I'm sticking with it until Jesse makes his triumphant return to this podcast. You are being introduced as everyone's favourite.
Okay, well, there have to be something. It's better than being everyone's least favourite, I should say.
Yeah,
That's true.
you're the only one of its type, so
Yeah.
what can you say? Now, in a week where the subreddit hit a milestone, we traditionally start the podcast with what we have been playing. So guys, what have you been playing this week? Let's start with you, Carina.
Fortnite again, as I have done for the past 3 weeks. And also I give Slime Rancher a go and spent endless hours getting lost aimlessly around the island. I am so glad with the new upcoming update. You'll find out later on about that. But yeah, no, it's really, really enjoyable game. And honestly, I'd been having a busy week and it was nice to just relax and play Slime Rancher. Very, very therapeutic a little bit. It was really good.
It's impossible to be angry at their stupid little faces.
Unless they jump out. I get really frustrated when they jump out the pens, but then I finally bought the high walls. So I managed to get them in now, but at first it was really frustrating.
What's your favourite slime?
Oh, the tabby cats.
Yeah, mine too.
I really like
Is
them.
that not the ones that were annoying you last week?
The floss, I don't know if that's pronounced Flossophus ones. They're blue and they have wings, so they can fly out the boxes.
You're complaining about the cats eating your chickens on Twitter, if I remember correctly.
Oh yeah, because the cats somehow jumped. What? Why did they jump out? Oh yeah, because I just had really low walls at first, and I think the cats escaped. But obviously they eat meat, and so they ate all my chickens. And I was trying to hatch more chickens, but they all went. I just came back and there was nothing. I was oh.
No chickens.
But I have heard that if you throw a chickadee, a baby chicken, in the incinerator, you get an achievement.
You monster.
I know. I'm yet to do it though. I don't know if I can bring myself to do that.
I know what I'm doing as soon as I finish this podcast. But as Carina alluded to there, later on the podcast, we do have an interview with Nick Popovich, who is the game designer and co-founder of Monomi Park, the developers of Slime Rancher, so you get that to look forward to later. But Rhys, what have you been playing?
This week, I have been playing Slime Rancher also. I mentioned it in the interview, but I'll say it here as well. It was so satisfying to get it out of early access, to boot up the game and suddenly be hit with 30 straight achievements back to back. It was like ambrosia, really. It was great. And I finished Torment Tides of Numenera.
Ooh.
Yeah. Maybe
I don't know why I made that sound. I really don't care, but
maybe
yeah.
maybe 40 hours or so.
40 hours?
Done. Yeah. It was
And
really good.
what's your overall opinion?
I loved it. So well written, completely unforgettable sort of story. It gets really sort of cosmic horror. I mean, the bad guy is basically Cthulhu in a way, but it's just so cool. For anyone who's unfamiliar, I'll give you a basic outline of the story, because it's just the outline when the game begins. It's what? And it just gets weirder and weirder and better. But the game is set 1 billion years in the future, and basically, in the next billion years, countless civilizations of humankind and whatever else have risen and fallen. And this world is built on the ruins of 1 billion years worth of human progress and collapse. So there's just stuff everywhere. It's like techno magic, I guess. In this world, there is this one person called the Changing God. And he is this legendary, immortal sort of Machiavellian person who helps and destroys sort of in equal measure and has been around for millions of years throughout all the history books. And basically what he does is he lives in an immortal body, and then when he gets bored of that, or if it gets like really badly damaged, he transfers into a new body of his own design. And he's been doing that for a very, very long time. But each time he transfers, the last body develops its own conscious, like suddenly it's like a new person born into the world. They just wake up like, what? But they're still immortal. So the world is full of these cast-offs, which are his old shells, which have become their own people. And you begin the game as his newest cast-off. It's a really good way to sort of have the player have no idea about the world. And everyone actually answer you without being like, what the hell is wrong with you? It's like, oh, you're a cast-off. Okay, well, this is because of that. That's how the game begins, and it only gets weirder.
At the beginning, I thought you were describing Destiny.
No,
until you came off all this cast-off stuff.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's really deep. It's based on the Monte Cook, like Numenera series of tabletop games. It's a bit like Dungeons and Dragons. It's just a really, 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 really well-written game.
Sounds fascinating.
Yeah.
If I'm honest with you.
The storyline seems really good.
Okay, let me hit you with this. I played through the entire game and I did not kill anyone. I did not get into a single fight. I talked my way around everything. The game like reacts to your choices. Like choices have consequence, so it's highly replayable. So if you guys are like looking for a really deep game and you don't mind reading, it's like basically like a novel with pictures. Then this is a good game for you. And I also played Splatoon.
No surprises.
They released a new weapon, the umbrella. It's great.
Sounds fantastic.
I can hear the mirth. Hey, I went in depth on a game that's Xbox. Okay. It's great.
Yeah, that is very true. Congratulations. 1 week out of 67. But anyway, talking about games coming out of early access, like Slime Rancher this month, I've been playing another one.
What's that?
And that is The Long Dark. Ooh. Probably one of the few survival games that actually came out of early access.
Ross. I'm rubbing my hands together because we've talked about this for years.
Yes, we have. And so I've now played through the story.
Give me the end to this legacy. I need it.
Well, there's still more episodes to come. It's not the full complete version. It's only the first two parts of the story, but overall the game is great. I really, really like it. It is tough as nails. I mean, you're consistently being asked to make decisions which will decide if you survive or not. And for anyone that doesn't know, you crash in a plane in Canada, the deepest, most area of Canada, where basically it's snow everywhere, you're freezing cold, you're injured, and you literally have nothing to help you survive. And it makes a very small tutorial of teaching you how to set a fire and repair clothes and get some food and make tea for some bizarre reason. But then it just casts you off into the world and says, survive. And you know what? It does it really, really well.
Does it have a story?
I think it does, yeah. So there's like an event, let's just say a weather event that causes the plane to crash and why everything is so cold, and you are on a plane at the time and you're transporting someone who, for reasons which are not disclosed, to a certain area that there is no reason for them to be there, basically. And you then go on the search for the person you've crashed with because you know that they're still alive, but you don't know where. So not only are you trying to keep yourself alive, but you're trying to find this person. I don't want to spoil too much about it, but it's got two particular modes or three modes, should I say. Challenges mode where it will just drop you somewhere and give you a specific challenge that you have to do. Survival mode where it is just literally survival, and then the story mode that you're searching for this person. And all three modes are very, very good, very strong. And overall, I'm really enjoying it.
So, okay, before we move on, I need to know a little bit more about this. So,
yeah.
Because, over the months and months we talked about this, you've said you've gone from loving it to hating it, to loving it again, to hating it again. And what do you think about, as someone who's played from basically day one, the very first edition that they released versus the complete edition? Like, is it What are the changes like? Is it night and day or what?
In a game called The Long Dark, it's night and day. Living in Finland, you'll know all about The Long Dark, to be honest with you, but...
It's a long day right now.
It's a long day, yeah. I would like to say that they've listened to feedback, but some of my complaints about the initial game haven't been addressed. I can find it a little bit grindy for getting certain items, and literally to light a fire takes an age. Like, honestly, like, you could be standing there for a good couple of minutes just trying to light a fire. I get, it's meant to be anticipation with this fire light, and you're trying to do things to get this fire to light, but once you've done it a few times, it's a bit like, oh, this is a little bit samey. It's a hard game. It's not an easy game for people just to pick up and get and play. You really have to learn the mechanics of it. You're going to feel a lot of this game, especially in the longer survival modes. But overall, it's the closest thing to a survival game, a complete survival game that I've ever seen. It's so much further on, as you suggested there, than what the initial was. And I couldn't really see where they were going with it. I couldn't see how they could integrate a story mode into this. And now, having played the first 2 episodes, can see exactly what they're trying to do, what they're trying to teach you to do, and the expansions that they can bring on to the story, and the things that you're able to do in this sparse landscape are going to be great. I like it again. As you said, I've went through peaks and troughs of liking it or not, and I really am at the point in the moment where I really like it. Even my wife likes it as well, apart from the wolves.
She doesn't like wolves?
They can damage you a lot. Even a single wolf can damage you a lot. And if there's no fire to warn it off, this wolf is going to attack you because there's not a lot of meat in this area. So if you're in an area and you're bleeding and you're trying to get yourself to the next safe haven and there's a wolf there, you're on the brink of death at every single moment. And when you see or hear a wolf, you know that the end is coming.
Well, that sounds a bit like Alien Isolation in a way.
Yeah, a bit. Yeah, when you hear the alien come through the vents, like, it's got that sort of moment to it. It's very tense, like Alien Isolation, actually. There is wolves and bears and things like that, when you hear and you know they're in the area, you know that you're going to really struggle. So, yeah, it's really good. It is really, really good, and Hinterland have done well with it.
Good to hear.
So, I suppose at this point we should find out what's been happening in the subreddit.
Yeah.
You're listening to Xbox One Party Chat podcast. This week in the subreddit.
Right, so this week in the subreddit, it hit a bit of a milestone, so I'm going to pass you to Rhys to give the big announcement.
What announcement?
I don't know, some number.
Yeah, but I don't know. No, but yeah, seriously, let's all clap. Yay!
Yay!
I don't hear clapping. Thank you. There we go. That's more appropriate. So yeah, we hit 500,000, which is a really long way of saying 500,000 subscribers. Congratulations to nobody, I guess, because we don't win anything. But but there's 500,000 subscribers now, which is great. We are growing from strength to strength. It feels like just last week we were at 400,000 subscribers. I know that I can tell you, in fact, that the rate of subscriber growth is accelerating drastically as we approach the XB1X release. We've almost caught up to PS4, actually. We're only 75k behind them, and considering the PlayStation 4 is outside the Xbox, 4-1? That's pretty good. We are the largest Xbox One subreddit in the world, and we don't just have 500,000 subscribers. We also get about between 3 and 4 million unique visitors every month, and you guys absolutely destroy Reddit's bandwidth with your average of about, say, 20 to 30 million hits on the page every month. So there's a lot of clicks coming out that subreddit, guys, and we love all of you, most of you, some of you, one or two of you. No, but
I like to say that there's 500,000 reasons to visit the subreddit.
Yeah. Also, I made a promise. Someone, Batmat93 asked if we hit 1 million subscribers, would I film myself eating cheese and release it to the public? And I said, I swear it. That's a promise, guys. If we hit 1 million, I'm going to eat cheese. I'll eat any kind of cheese you want. I'll eat the cheese in any fashion you want. So, don't get as carried away as you want.
Carina will eat an old crystal of some sort, and I'll eat myself. Why not?
Okay. There's
But
a
no,
few different
congrats,
ways I
everyone.
could interpret that. I choose to go with most wholesome.
Almost awesome.
Next up, story-wise, after the big news, is that Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy supposedly is going to be released this December, according to a website, and that was user YP261. So guys, I want to ask you, Carina, you first, are you excited to see Crash Bandicoot on Xbox One?
I am a bit. I am quite excited because I probably, depending on what else is released around the time, I might consider getting Crash Bandicoot. I did play it a little bit when I was younger, and I have been watching a lot of streams of people playing it. I really want to try that one level that's on the bridge. I cannot remember the name, and there's dogs, and you can kind of cheat it by jumping on the rope on the side. But apparently it's really, really hard. And I just, the amount of like streamers I've watched just fail it over and over again. I kind of just want to try that level. Don't mind the rest of the game, I just want that one.
I'd say the hardest level in the game is the one where you go up the side of the castle and all the stairs come back and forth in the middle of a rainstorm. I can't remember what it's called, but that level is just brutal.
I'm not sure if it's one Karina's talking about. Is that the level that was hidden in one of the games, but they put it in like normal as DLC?
I don't know.
So there was a level that wasn't really released officially, and they gave it as DLC in the PS4, and I think that's a really, really difficult one. But like Crash Bandicoot, a Naughty Dog game originally on Xbox One. Who would believe it? Who would actually believe it?
I'd believe it.
Because it's Activision, they like money.
They love money, and I think that the biggest real proof of this is that Sony has not said that it's exclusive, and Sony would be shrieking that from the high heavens were it the case. I mean, Microsoft would be too. It's Crash Bandicoot. He's a cultural icon, you know, like. And you know, whenever there is an exclusive PlayStation game, Sony is all over the marketing, you know, so is Microsoft. And no one has said that yet. So I think that is a pretty damn good, you know, indicator that it's coming. But this is not the first time we've seen this rumor, and all of the different rumors that we've had say the same date. Is it December 8th? Yeah.
I think it's at the beginning of December anyway, or they've all been about that. Like, you're right, it's too frequent now, and the fact that Sony haven't shouted that it's got to happen, and I think people will be really disappointed now if it doesn't.
My girlfriend will have a fit. Ever since she's heard about it coming to PlayStation, she's been, like, pissed, basically, because she grew up with Crash Bandicoot. She loves Crash. And that would be a real blow on the nose for her, basically, if it didn't come out. I'm looking forward to it. I loved Crash, especially I got I think it was 115% in Crash 3 when I was in high school. If you got 100%, you unlocked some secret levels, and that you get like 115% or 110 or something like that. That was the first game that I ever got like full completion in. Yeah. What's your favorite Crash game, Ross?
First one. First level of the first one.
I think Crash 3 is the best, mechanically. A lot of people say Crash 2, but I disagree.
Like, for me, it's a nostalgia thing, as they always say, and the first level of Crash it's so iconic.
It is, and the music, you know.
And it changed sort of platformers at that time, and it was the PS1, and people just really took to it. In fact, they had it in Uncharted 4 quite recently.
Yeah, I remember that.
Not talking about Xbox after pulling people up. But yeah, they had that a couple of times in Uncharted 4, and I think that sort of pushed some people's buttons as such. It is so iconic. It's also a lot of games. 3 Crash games is probably, 40, 50 hours?
Crash games are not short, and they are not easy.
Yeah. So, you're going to get bang for your buck as such.
Absolutely. It's not rare replay levels of bang for your buck, but it's up there. I mean, that's great. I, for one, am super looking forward to it. And I would also really like them to re-release Crash Team Racing, or just make a sequel, guys. That would be great, please.
Well, I think this would be a good point to just slot in the interview. So
just ram it in there.
Ram it right in there.
Yeah.
That sounded a lot better in my head.
Yeah.
So take it away, Rhys, with the interview.
Let's do this.
Xbox Snap This Week's Interview.
All right, everybody, welcome back to this week's interview. We have a super cool guest tonight. We have Nick Popovich, the game designer and co-founder of Monomi Park, who just released Slime Rancher on Xbox One, and it is currently on the Games with Gold program. Nick, welcome to the podcast.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Fantastic to have you here. We are very excited to chit-chat about things that are round and bally and slimy. But before we make it weird, why don't we start off, nice and easy with you telling us just a little bit about, who you are and what you do at Monomi Park.
Sure. So I am the co-founder and CEO of Monomi Park. I guess that's the big title, but really I'm a game designer, and I directed Slime Rancher. So I sort of oversaw development and designed the game and that sort of thing. Yeah, that's basically what I do. But since we're a really small company, I end up handling, like social media and a bunch of other things like legal stuff and all that has to come up when you're managing a small company and you've got very few people. So it's
fun stuff.
Wearing a lot of hats.
Fantastic. Now, can you tell us a little about the history of Monomi Park? How did you guys get started?
Yeah, sure. So I used to work at a company called 3 Rings, and they were acquired by Sega while I was developing a game there called Spiral Knights, which you could still play on Steam if you wanted to check that out. 3 Rings made a bunch of games, including Puzzle Pirates, and a friend of mine from 3 Rings who worked on Puzzle Pirates, Mike Thomas, the other co-founder of the company, joined me shortly after I left in 2014 to start developing our own thing. So Slime Rancher began with just the 2 of us. Over time, we've grown to now we're 7 full-time people. Significant for us, but still a tiny, tiny team by industry standards. But we all, like I said before, wear a lot of hats, so we're able to get a lot done. And so here we are. When we were developing Slime Rancher, the idea was that Mike and I would make something that would sort of support us. And we had some, looking back, fairly conservative goals in mind for sales and everything, and it quickly exploded. And even though we're kind of growing the company slowly, we're kind of blown away by the situation that we're in right now. So it's been a wild ride ever since I guess we launched into early access in like early 2016. We haven't looked back since.
That leads me right into the next question that I've got written here, and that's, that Slime Rancher just came out of early access, and it didn't just come out of early access, but it went straight into the Games with Gold program. So, basically you finished your game and went, hey, everybody, have it for free. I just want to know, how does it feel, to finally get out of early access after this, long road with such a small, obviously tight-knit company, and then just hand it out, not for free, obviously, but, basically give it to everyone who has an Xbox Live Gold subscription like that. That's pretty unique, right?
Yeah, it is. I mean, it was a long road, but I guess we're all thankful that it wasn't a really long road. Certainly you could get into a situation where you're just kind of developing it and tinkering with it for years and years. So, it was pretty cathartic to finish up what we had set out to do and, put that coveted 1.0 label on it. It's worth mentioning that we're still continuing to develop Slime Rancher though, and we're going to be releasing a bunch of free updates in the future. But the decision to go Games with Gold, we thought about it very seriously and saw it as an opportunity for us to kind of push Slime Rancher more into the mainstream, because despite the success that we've had with it, we've sort of flown under the radar. It's one of those weird games where, at least prior to our 1.0 release, there wasn't a lot of chatter about it in the mainstream media, but it was all over YouTube. And I mean, all over YouTube for the better part of a year and a half or so. It just kind of stayed there. We're very, very thankful that our community kind of stuck with us for this long. So I think we saw Games with Gold as a way that all of a sudden millions of people would be playing it, within 48 hours. And we figured, word of mouth for the game is really strong in that it's only going to be free to Gold subscribers for the month, and then it goes back to doing its thing again. So that is a opportunity for us. And we've been happy with the results. I mean, it literally was millions of people within 48 hours. So you go from like working up those sales numbers and leading to certain goals to just all of a sudden, here you go, here's a few million people to play your game and give you feedback and everything. And so that is kind of crazy. It's like an easy button in a lot of ways for having people talk about your game.
I mean, seeing with all these millions of players that, like you say, in the past 48 hours have started playing your game, how would you describe it for those that are a bit unfamiliar? Because surely you've got loads of new players now.
Mm-hmm. I mean, fortunately, we haven't seen like a massive uptick or anything in support requests and stuff like that, because we've had the opportunity to develop the game over a couple of years. We've smoothed out a lot of any sort of rough edges that could have been there. I would Google Slime Rancher every day and see what the activity was in the last 24 hours, and usually I'd find some stuff that was worth sharing or looking into. But now, you do that and you're kind of overwhelmed with the number of results. You're like, I didn't even know these were forums that existed that are now talking about the game and stuff like that. But
I hope you're not talking about our forum.
our Reddit kind of exploded, but no, it's been great seeing people on the Xbox Reddit as well, talking about the game. Mostly the reaction, which we're really happy with, is like, what is this game? And then like, I can't stop playing this game. So I think it's definitely true. We were kind of flying under the radar, and now everyone's like, where has this been my whole life? So we're super thrilled with that. That overall the response has been great. I think when Games with Gold originally was announced, the focus was on Bayonetta for this month, and we're happy to see that we still made a considerable impact.
No, it's great. Just for the people who maybe are on the fence about downloading the game, can you just quickly describe the game itself?
Yeah, it's interesting. We've, some people have told us it's like its own genre, but it is a first-person slime ranching exploration kind of farming sim game, but if it could be as action-packed or like quiet and zen-like as you prefer. So the game really can be what you want it to be. And I think one of the surprises that we found in development was we didn't necessarily set out to make this, what are often called like zen games, these games that you can kind of just get in the zone and there's not a lot of friction that's going to pull you out of the experience or make you fail or something like that. I don't think we really set out to make that, but a lot of our players cite that as like the number one reason they enjoy playing the game, that it's their after a bad day kind of game experience where they get to mingle with thousands of happy cooing slimes as they slowly amass a profit and explore a big alien world.
I'll just quickly tell you, I'm actually one of those people. There's nothing better than like having this huge little pen full of like slime balls and then like jumping in like a giant ball pit.
There's an achievement for that, I believe.
I know. I actually played the game a lot in early access, so when the game finally came out, I just opened it. And I think I got like 20 straight achievements just sitting in the main menu. That was a good feeling, I have to say.
Yeah, the ball pit thing was part of the original design. Was it came from this idea of like it would be cool to build a game around the idea of like jumping into a ball pit, and that goes back further to my experiencing with that. I've probably told this story too many times, but the Slime Rancher kind of came from a bug in the Elder Scrolls Oblivion, where you could fill towns full of thousands and thousands of melons that were rolling around on the ground and causing NPCs to trip on them and stuff like that. And jumping into the pit of melons and everything was always weird and funny and fun. So I thought, that would be a cool game.
mentioning the early access, how was your journey through it? I mean, did it shape much of your game currently? Because I know you've done a lot of updates in between the early access and the games with gold, when it got released for Games with Gold.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we had a very clear vision, I think, as to where we were going with it. So we weren't kind of developing it organically or saying like, this next update, community, what would you like? But we have listened very closely to the community. We consume, any YouTube video or stream of note on Slime Rancher. I've probably seen it. We kind of obsess over it, and we look for places where players are getting snagged and stuff like that, and try and fix those. But a great example, actually, of our listening to the community is the update that's dropping right now as we're recording on Xbox, and that is the navigation update that adds a dynamic map system to the game, which is something that our players have wanted for a while.
I was playing yesterday, I got so lost.
Yeah, well, you will be lost no more. And assuming that you unlock all of your map and everything. But it's nice. It's nice to like put something out there that everyone wanted, and see how they receive it. But yeah, definitely over those years, like we were, we had our ear very close to the ground, and if something wasn't working, we would kind of massage it into something that did. But we never, fortunately, went through any sort of giant sea change that was necessary because players were just hating a particular feature or system or something. Fortunately, our vision that we had seems to work for the players, and we're just making fine-tuning and stuff like that to accommodate some of the needs that they have in the live game, like infinite gardens that are in this update as well. Stuff like that.
Now, I love slime, and I know Redditors love slime. But and it's clearly that you love slime as well. But has it always been slime, or did this all start as something else?
Well, it was born of necessity. So we wanted to make a really different game, and once we were thinking about something like Slime Rancher, I guess Slime Rancher kind of came and popped into my head fairly whole. And it was out of those necessities, like when it was just the two of us and I was doing the art and the design and Mike was doing all of the coding, we could not make a game about humans or known animals or anything that was articulated because I'm terrible at animating and there's no way I would have been able to model that convincingly. So I was really limited in what I was able to do. And so slimes were great, because they're these little blobby smiley faces, which means that in terms of how physics calculates them, they're just spheres. So it makes the physics load a little easier that they could just be represented as spheres. Slime Rancher pushes physics really, really hard, and having slimes be spheres makes that a little less painful. But yeah, it was trying to, if we were going to make a physicsy game, slimes made sense because they always look like correct. Like they're these goofy little blobs. So if one is stuck to something, it makes sense because it's a slime. Like as a player, you have much lower expectations as to what they would be doing. Whereas like if you're fighting a guy in Call of Duty and his AI starts breaking down like an AI controlled entity, and its AI breaks down in some way, it becomes really obvious, right? Because he's not shooting at you anymore and you're standing right in front of his face, or he's running into a wall, or, something like that. And it's because he's represented as a person and you have these particular expectations for how persons should behave in a virtual space. But with slimes, you don't, it's similar to if the game were, What's It Rancher and What's It's were these things that we just sort of made up and they were totally alien. That's a huge advantage that we have as the designer of the game to do whatever we want to do. We just have to sell you that they're charming and have just enough human traits that you can relate to them.
That's genius, really, because more than once I've walked around the corner and for example, just seen two slimes stacked on top of one another. And I've just gone like, oh, you little dumbasses. Like, I know.
Yeah, you don't know what they're you don't know what they're trying to accomplish. They're just doing
like,
that.
What are you guys doing? Yeah, you just sort of roll with it. That's genius.
Yeah, it wouldn't even work if those were two cats, because you're like, well, cats maybe do that sometimes, but why are they doing it all the time? And, so little alien slimes works a lot better.
And I'm just going to say that if the next Call of Duty game has slime in it, I might even pre-order.
Do you possibly have a favourite slime style? How did you come up with the visual design? Did you just see something in the real world and decide that's what you want it to look like? Or did you go, let's make the cutest thing possible?
They're definitely, JRPG kind of inspired slimes. They're not like the 90s era, Western game version, which would be like Nickelodeon goo and gross and everything. So we definitely did the whole like Dragon Quest style slime, where even though they're slimes, they're more like gel. Maybe this is getting too specific, but it's really a difference between them being like gross and snot-like and then being like something you could hug, if that makes sense. Yes. And the Dragon Quest slimes always read as that to me. They didn't seem like they were leaving like gross trails as they moved around and stuff. They're more, it's like going for like the mascot potential versus, something that was supposed to be gross. So, and yeah, then we went for like the cutest possible thing. We made a whole bunch of choices that sort of subtly, make them more endearing to the player. If you vac them, they auto face the camera so that you could see their expression, and then it feels like they're reacting to you specifically. And so the world is starting to, as in the player's eye, like kind of revolve around them. And the other thing you do, that they do is like they coo and, make like kind of sounds of awe at a lot of the things that they see in the world, which gives them a sort of sense of wonder, and wonder is like a childlike quality. So, you have lower expectations for children. Obviously, we're getting real deep here with the. We totally played our audience, and they're like putty in our hands when it comes to slimes. Yeah.
I want to know, with the farming aspect, were you inspired by any other particular games in the genre, like, I don't know, Animal Crossing or Viva Pinata, or like, is there any of those games that you have a particular favorite of?
So I'm actually not that into farming games, and that's why the farming yeah, I know.
I hate farming games. I'm going to make one.
Yeah, well, I'd never made a first-person shooter either, or a physicsy game. Like, that's sort of what we do. Probably the next game that we make will be, none of those things as well. But I'm not crazy about farming games, and I think that's why a lot of the farming in Slime Rancher can be expedited in the way that it can. It's very sort of action-y, so you just vacuum stuff up. You don't need to, like, till the soil or whatever it is that you would do individually. You just, like, clone carrots and, heartbeats and things like that. So we tried to make it sort of as streamlined as we can. We'll actually even be adding additional updates in the future with like drones and stuff that will help automate the farms a little bit more. But overall, I'm not too crazy about farming games. I think I like the idea of them because it's very quaint and it's very atypical of a video game. At least it was until a few years ago. But like having sort of this positive relationship with the earth and growing something for something else to consume and grow from in turn is like, it's very wholesome. And so I like that games do that. But I certainly played Harvest Moon when I was a kid. I do like lots of parts of Animal Crossing. I really loved Viva Pinata, but I loved it for the same reason that I hope people like Slime Rancher, and that's that like Viva Pinata was really weird and charming, and the parts of it that felt more like resource gathering and stuff like that I wasn't as into. So I think that's why I'm sort of bummed when people compare Slime Rancher to Stardew Valley, like in a formal review, because it's just like, you wouldn't say Stardew Valley lacks first-person physics-based exploration and slime ranching, right? But
well, I mean, it does in a way.
Yeah, so I don't know. I kind of like that we're doing our own thing, and so if anything, like the farming stuff, I like that it's played down a little bit in favor of chaotic slime ranching. So yeah.
I'm actually wearing my Viva Pinata shirt right now, so preach,
awesome.
brother.
Did you ever take that off?
I like to wear it for interviews, just in case, because it's always good to reference.
Is that why you keep on bringing up Viva Pinata? Because you'll wear a t-shirt of
it's my favorite t-shirt.
That game is so great. Like, it did things that other games still haven't done, and there was technology on display in that game that I still wish we could like do in Slime Rancher. It was a brilliant game. Did you ever hear that like it jeopardized the development of, I think it was Halo 3, that there was like an internal company mandate at Bungie that everyone had to stop playing Viva Pinata because Halo 3 development was slowing down, and it was because everyone was like trading, their pinatas and things like that, and trying to figure out how systems worked and that. So it was like everyone's got to stop playing, or we're not going to ship this game on time. That's what I heard anyway.
We had Rare on the podcast like a couple months ago, and we actually had the art director who was responsible for Viva Pinata. I wish I could have asked him about that at the time. That's a great story. I'm definitely going to have to Google that after this. But
yeah, definitely.
I'm basically I've got one more. I've got no more questions really on the sheet for me. The rest is all Ross and Carina. But I'm going to get in real quick with one last question from my end, and that's why poop?
Well, it's not. It's plorts. I have no idea what you're talking about. Yeah.
Okay. You have no idea? Then
yeah, I'm mystified. I don't know where is this coming from.
Okay, maybe it's just me. I guess I'm scared of it. Never mind. I think I need an appointment with my shrink again.
Yeah.
So what would you say is next for your company for Monomi Park? Oh, Monomi, sorry.
Monomi.
Yeah.
Oh, damn it, I'm already pronouncing it wrong.
Monomi, Monomai. Hey.
Mono
Tomato.
Right now we're totally focused on Slime Rancher development. We're still going to be updating Slime Rancher with these free content updates that we have planned. However, I'm always sort of thinking about what's next, because I like to design games in my head and then shelve the design when it's to the point that I think we could, as a company, begin prototyping it. And so I like to just have this kind of library in my head of games that we could jump onto next if need be. I guess all I would say on that end is, Monomi Park was, founded. One of our principles was we were going to just make some really different stuff. I see no reason why we would go into independent development if we weren't going to think like independent developers. So we really don't want to chase trends or anything like that. And I think whatever we do next should hopefully be just as surprising as Slime Rancher was for a lot of people. And that's something that we want to stick with. And also, stuff that we've never done before. I think there's lots of really cool lessons to learn from Slime Rancher, but we like to challenge ourselves with new problems to solve. And so we wouldn't want to do the same thing, the exact same thing over again.
So you're telling me I should get my, just throw my hopes out for Call of Slime?
Well, no, that'd be too similar to Call of Duty, I'm afraid. So not going to happen.
Slime of Duty? Oh, no. Well, look, you have had it pretty easy so far, if I'm honest, Nick. So it wouldn't be the Party Chat podcast if we didn't end this interview with the hardest question of them all. And that is, what classic video game character could you, or would you, knock out with one punch?
Oh, Bubsy.
That was the quickest answer in history. Just bam, Bubsy, screw that cat. Is he a cat?
I mean, it's probably Bubsy or Sonic, to be honest with you.
Is Bubsy a cat? Is he like a bobcat?
Yeah, he's a bobcat. Yeah. He's a bobcat. Yeah.
Okay, wow.
It's Bubsy is almost like when all the 90s Tood characters moved on, whatever that slime trail was that was behind them, he kind of formed out of it and was one last hurrah for a game that is not good at all. So yeah, sorry. Don't mean to shit on Bubsy the Bobcat.
No, that's fine. He has a punchable face, doesn't he? I can see
he really does. Yeah, there's a really great. So obviously Bubsy 3D was even worse.
No.
Yeah. Oh my God, it was so bad.
The name of Satan on this podcast.
Yeah. But there's a really great Bubsy. I don't want to call it a fan game, but it's a video or a game about Bubsy visiting an art gallery, and I'll just leave it at that because it's totally worth playing. That is the definitive Bubsy experience. So for all you Bubsy the Bobcat fans out there, be sure to check that out. Just Google like Bubsy the Bobcat fan game or something. I can't remember what it's called.
Oh, I'm already Googling it right now, actually.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for joining us. You've been a great sport, and we've had a very fantastic interview. We've learned a lot about Bubsy and slime and all kinds of crazy stuff. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. It was great it was great to be on the podcast. Thanks so much, guys.
Don't choke right at the end, man. You did so well. Thanks, Nick, and see you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.
So thank you, Nick, for taking the time to join us. We've all played Slime Rancher, as we mentioned there, and it is a great Games with Gold game. And that takes us on to our final topic, actually. I want to discuss this with you. Now, user Asher6465 stated that Slime Rancher has been downloaded by over 2.6 million people on Xbox One. That is an amazing feat. Of course, it wouldn't have hit those numbers if it wasn't on Games with Gold. So I want to ask you a question, and that is, what is your favourite Games with Gold game?
Like ever?
Yeah. So it could be 360, it could be Xbox One. What game would you maybe not have paid money for, but you have found through the Games of Gold program and absolutely loved?
Oh, I've got a good one.
What's that?
Go for it.
Well, it's not a good one. It's a game you'd look at and be like, why would you play that? But I'm pretty sure it was Games with Gold or free. I'm going to say Games with Gold. Doritos Crash Course. I didn't play that. It was brilliant, and I got upset. It was like Wipeout, but it was just brilliant.
It's
and
so
I don't know
good
why.
in
And I got
split
addicted
screen.
to trying to beat my score.
Did you ever play it? Did you never play it with a group of friends? Oh, you haven't lived. It's 4-player split screen. That game is competitive as hell.
I didn't know it was split screen. Oh, I'm going to have to bring that back.
And the sequel too. Did you play the sequel?
Oh, no. I didn't know there was a sequel.
It's a sequel. That's
no.
even better.
Okay, I'm going to have to look into it.
And I think it's backwards compatible too.
Oh, right, okay. That's my next probably game that I'm going to play.
Screw podcast, boys. I've got shit to do.
Doritos Crash Course, but no, that was one of... it was brilliant. I absolutely loved it.
Oh, for me... So I always have this problem where when the Games with Gold come out, I'm always like, oh yeah, I've already paid for that. The first one is definitely Max, The Curse of Brotherhood.
Fantastic game. Absolutely fantastic.
Yep, that's definitely good. There's so many good games that have come out that I already paid for. You know, I already bought Worms Battlegrounds. I already bought Super Time Force. I already bought iDarb. I already bought Rayman Legends.
You never bought iDarb because that wasn't actually released.
No, you're right. It was released as Game with Gold. Okay, well, we'll tick that one there. And see, I already paid for Child of Light. That's a great game. Oh, there's one. Massive Chalice. That is a great game that is surprisingly good, and everyone should have played that at some point. It's quite good. Thief Fire Deport, Kill Instinct. See this? It's like they conspire to only release games that I've already paid for.
Probably look through your library and go, yep, we'll do that one.
Yeah, that's exactly what they've done. Hey, here's one. It'll be my final one, actually, and that's The Crew. I played The Crew. I hated it. The demo, and I tossed it in the figurative garbage. But when the game came out on Games with Gold, and it had, like a couple of years of support, and people were saying, give it another try, I thought, okay, I will. And you know what? It's actually a pretty decent game nowadays.
Really? Because it's an Ubisoft driving game, so that's not a common...
The problem is the game's physics on the default settings are pure garbage. It drives like there's a pole straight through your engine connected to the ground, and whenever you turn, you basically swing the back end of the car out around this invisible pole. It feels wrong. But if you go into the settings, and there's a lot of people out there who have tutorials, even on our subreddit, of the correct settings to use when you start tweaking the handling, then the game will actually play, akin to Forza Horizon 3. It sucks that you have to actually set the game up like this, but once you get it set up, it plays really well.
Yeah. I might have to revisit this.
But I mean, of course, there is one game that's really important.
Let me answer.
Okay.
Let me answer my favourite ever Games of Gold before you go spouting off your mouth. There is possibly the greatest game on Xbox One.
I don't think you mean possibly, Ross.
Well, clearly, it is the greatest of all time. The GOAT of all games, known especially on this subreddit, and that is Evolve. I loved it the moment it was released. It was fantastic. I'm only joking.
You trolled me so hard, right? That I actually blinked in rage. Like, I was just sitting here like, you...
The Games with Gold game that is so good, they made it Games with Gold for so many months in a row that people stopped counting. It is, of course, Pool Nation FX.
Games with Gold for all years. You know...
Every single moment on that loading screen was a moment that I treasure
ecstasy.
In my life.
Do you know that...
I loved it.
That meme that I single-handedly continue to propagate on the subreddit, the developers don't like me. I'm the one, if anyone's curious, who writes those Game of the Year awards that we have every year on the subreddit, if you can't tell by the sarcastic sense of humor. And I made Pool Nation FX an option in every single genre. And I also made the only option to vote for in Games with Gold, and it won a couple of things. Like I think it won best sports game, and like I think it won best horror game, and a whole bunch of other stuff. And people were tweeting at the developers saying, you know, hey, you've won all this stuff on the subreddit, and they got so pissy. They were so mad, but we did it out of love, guys. Don't hate me.
I don't understand it. It's clearly the greatest.
I know. They don't understand that it was the greatest. Maybe they thought we weren't worthy. That could be it.
No, I'm just really gutted that the loading times weren't longer.
I believe they even patched them to be shorter, the bastards.
Oh, do they not understand their audience?
No. Have you been to the Pool Nation FX subreddit?
There's a Pool Nation FX subreddit.
Of course there is.
Oh. I'm
off you go.
On it now. I feel quite bad.
Why?
Because I haven't played it in at least a week.
Oh, that we all know that feeling, Ross. But you know, you gotta.
Yeah. So I suppose that's a good time to end the podcast. So thank you, Rhys and Carina, for joining us for another week. We can all keep our fingers crossed. Uncle Jesse will not be too busy next week to join us. Here's hoping.
Yeah.
But for another week. Xbox, turn off.
You're listening to Xbox One Party Chat Podcast, the official podcast of the Xbox One subreddit.
It's settled. Let's do this.
I mean, like, I bloody waffled on just trying to describe the general premise of Torment Tides of Numenera. I didn't even go in depth.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I didn't even start talking about what Numenera are.
No.
What?
No.
It's in the title. Numenera.
Yeah, but how do you pronounce it? Like
Numenera.
Numenera. All right, okay.
Or is it Numeria? No, it's Numenera.
Numa, Numa. Oh no, it's something totally different, isn't it?
Yeah.